So, welcome to Burgenland. We're in the countryside of Austria. It's been something that's been on my mind for a while, and that is I wonder how a new APS-C sensor with the most modern processor compares to an old full-frame camera, particularly for stills. You see, my journey into digital photography, I started off with cameras, with APS-C cameras, maybe even Micro Four Thirds, and was just never happy with the image quality until I got my first EOS 5D. With an L lens, and I was finally taking the kind of pictures that I wanted. Except I don't shoot that much with the 5D with the L lens anymore because it's heavy as fuck. What I want to know is, if you want to get the best image quality you can in 2020, are you better off buying an old cheap full frame camera or a new APS-C sensor? We're going to be comparing an original 5D with the EOS M50. It's a strange comparison because the 5D nowadays is worth less than an M50 with a kit lens, but the 24-105 L lens we're going to be using is probably worth more used than the 5D with a kit lens is new. Now, I can almost hear the haters from here. I know the lens is going to be different on an APS-C camera when compared to a full frame camera. We're not going to have the same wide angle that we get on full frame, but we're going to have a bit more reach in the zoom. Also, it's not going to be possible to get that same shallow depth of field you can get with a full frame on the APS-C M50. But this is a real world test. You see, what I'm interested in is the full frame look really a thing? Or is it just a shallow depth of field on a good quality sensor? Well, here we are back in the studio taking a look at the images. And for these first two, I'm honestly shocked at just how similar they look. They're both directly out of the camera. We've applied the lens profiles, but that's all. And I'm just shocked at how similar these two images look to each other. So here we have our second images. I've only edited these enough to make the exposure the same and the white balance look as close as possible between the two images. And again, I'm shocked at just how similar these two images are. If we zoom in on the road here, both are giving us fantastic results. The 5D directly out of camera has perhaps a little bit more contrast, but that's easily fixed in Lightroom. By the way, these kind of pink, what look like chromatic aberration sections seem to only really be visible when I'm zoomed out. But again, the way the highlights and the trees interact are incredibly similar. Of course, I can zoom in a bit more on the M50 because it has more megapixels than the original 5D. But I'm really very shocked at how similar a result you can get from these two different bodies. So I've said it before, but what I'm really interested in is the look. Is there any unquantifiable thing about a full frame sensor that gives you the full frame look? Here I do have to admit that due to the shallower depth of field, we're getting more foreground blurring in the full frame version. That actually works quite well for this image. Bear in mind this was all shot with an f4 lens. So here's an example of a pair of images that I've worked on in Lightroom to really bring out what I consider to be the best from both photos. and I think they have a very similar feeling. Unfortunately, the compositions are slightly different. I didn't really pay perhaps enough attention to make them the same. But looking at the bouquet in the background, I think you're hard pressed to pick which one the 5D is and which one the M50 is. Oh my God, look what just happened. There's nature. Damn, hoping to get lost in this forest. I know where I am. Okay, back in the studio for some more comparisons. I think the look you get from the 5D and the M50 with the same lens is really very similar. But tell me what you think in the comments. I know where I am. Landscape test. The old 5D is holding onto that highlight better, but I think that's actually more to do with the fact that I exposed the image a little less on the 5D. There's my mother-in-law's house. So we're starting off at ISO 400 and shooting everything at f4. And at 400 ISO, everything's looking pretty good with both cameras. Also at ISO 800, we're swapping the focal length between 40 and 24 millimeters to maintain about the same field of view. At 1600, the 5D seems to suffer a bit, especially to the left of the door. At 3200, both cameras are not showing the best results. And these higher ISOs speak for themselves. But in the M50's defense, getting a shot, however grainy, is better than not getting the shot at all. I'm surprised at how well the 5D held up actually, for a 15-year-old piece of tech. This guy's in Burgenland. There's something else. Well, thanks for watching, guys. If you found that helpful or interesting, you know what to do. Catch you next time.